Hi everyone, I'm Chris.
And I'm Raph.
And together, we're Oversteer Alley.
We gonna kick it off, Chris?
Today on Oversteer Alley, we have the long-awaited 2022 Toyota GR86. Welcome along to our virtual review and track test. We've got a lot of really nice, promising on-paper improvements that we hope will translate to on-track and real-world street performance.
Yeah, I mean the previous models, I mean they were great cars when they were launched. Really kind of gave the competition a big surprise in entry-level compact sports cars. But I think this is going to be the next level. Like, I mean, this has been long awaited for the redesign. With everything coming into the market, with the the redesign of the 370, with kind of other competition around the block. I think it's been really a car a lot of people have been looking forward to. So it's one that we're super excited to get going here.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I mean, along with the 370 and the Supra, we've sort of had a sports car renaissance here. A lot of people will compare this to the Miata in terms of base price, rear-wheel drive, front engine.
We got to talk redesign. This car, let me tell you, this car has redesign all over it, from every single angle.
Definitely, I agree with that. It
every
definitely
single
looks
angle.
a lot more expensive than it is.
Oh, it's all about the exterior, the lines, the flow, the aerodynamics. It's a gorgeous car from every angle.
For some reason, my initial gut feeling when looking at the rear end of it was NSX. I guess it's something in the taillights.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. It also has kind of a Lotus-ish vibe to it.
All right, well, what about inside then? I mean, there's been some big changes there.
I mean, they've kept it pretty clean and basic for the most part, tidy to kind of sum it up. I think they've taken their styling from the previous generation, carried it forward to this redesign. I mean, material-wise, I think they've updated all their kind of materials and buttons and the Alcantara seats.
Yeah, the Alcantara is a big thing. I think a lot of the first-gen owners were complaining about the Alcantara seats, that they get really hot. I think it was back in 2016 or the 2020 refresh where they finally added perforated Alcantara on some trims, and it seems like that now has become standard across the board, which is nice to see.
Yeah, I mean, tough life, first world problems. I mean, you got to stay cool in your sports car.
Exactly, while generating all that smoke and friction
Exactly.
on the track, getting sideways,
Yep,
right?
yep.
There you go. You do have a rear seat still. It still looks, we haven't been in it, but it still looks equally impractical for any adult. Maybe you want to put your kids back there if they don't need to bend their knees and they've got, still short, small legs.
Yeah, so I'm gonna have to jump in here, Chris. Any booster seat or any backed baby car seat is not going in there. I mean, it is gonna be tight any which way. That's not a family cruiser, let's be honest.
There you go. Well, you're the dad times two, so I'll take your word for it. And it's probably not, that back seat's not suitable for any other activities either that you might want to get up to in a back seat of a car.
About having kids, okay.
Anyway, we've got a nice, clean digital instrument panel, which is shaped like a boxer engine with its opposed pistons. Very, very clean, nice animations, not overwrought.
All right, so I think that sums up kind of the interior. I know there's gonna be more discussion about kind of steering feel, shifting, clutch pedal, kind of the more mechanical side of things. When we get our hands on this car finally, I mean, we'll probably test out the handbrake, do all the things that we at Oversteer Alley will be testing. Very thoroughly, because we want to make sure the car suits not only our needs as reviewers, but the consumers watching.
That's a perfect segue. Why don't we, before we jump into the track impressions, why don't we talk about some key specs then? How these are differentiated. The 2022 has a 2.4 liter 4-cylinder boxer engine versus the outgoing 2-liter boxer engine. Engine designations are FA24D for the new one and FA20 for the old one. Horsepower, 231 horsepower on the incoming model versus 204 on the outgoing. And that's peak power at 7,000 RPM for both of them. But we also get another almost 30 foot-pounds of torque.
And that's key.
It's at 3,700 RPM.
Exactly.
Much lower RPM.
Way more snappy
Yeah.
at the lower revs.
Exactly. Curb weight's fairly similar. The new one's a little bit heavier, negligibly, like 12 kilos. 0 to 60 times improved by 1.3 seconds on what we've seen so far. And pricing and release date are to be announced. You know, release dates later this year. We're hearing fall 2021. Nothing more concrete than that.
And this test will obviously get carried, you know, probably into late this year, early next year. Once we get our hands on the actual vehicle, we'll do the same kind of track test.
Perfect.
Fingers crossed.
In the absence of a proper track test, since Toyota has not yet let members of the press drive the car around a track, we decided that we wanted to mark the occasion of this car being launched into Gran Turismo Sport on the PlayStation by taking it out onto a virtual track, in this case, Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya in Spain. All right, so let's do some driving here. We're doing one lap, both of us, against each other, just to show our baselines. Then we're doing some drag races, new versus old. And then we're doing a one-lap delta with the new car against the old car to see how much faster the new car is. What are your one-lap perceptions around this track, Raf?
I think the new car is definitely dialed in, a lot more planted than the old model. You know, we've had the privilege of driving the old model both virtually and in person. You know, we know it slides around a lot. We know the back end traction was always an issue. The tires were kind of mediocre at best.
Let's just say it like it is, the Prius tires.
So I think this version on the track, the new one, I mean, it is a whole other beast. It is what the GR86 should have been, you know, 5 years ago.
To me, that sums it right up. I mean, this is the car that Toyota and Subaru should have launched in the first place. I'm not sure if it was to create some positioning for the Supra. I'm not sure if they felt like they needed the breathing room or something. But this is definitely what this car should have been in the first place with the 2.4 liter engine. A lot of people have called for turbocharging. You know, there was rumors you were going to get a BRZ, BRZ, STI. That never came. And I don't think that this car needs that. I'm a huge lover of forced induction, but I don't know that this car is the right car for a turbo or two.
You know, for me, I think what it needs is maybe an engine that's higher revving. You know, I like to see this bang out at 9,000 RPMs in the future. That would be a whole other animal as well.
A little bit of an S2000 competitor if that car was still around.
Yeah, you got it.
Cool. So yeah, I think you touched on all the real main points for me. I just wanted to hit one thing home, and the way that it feels hooked up and so connected, it's partly due to tires, but by and large, it's also due to just an increase in overall mechanical grip in the car. And you can feel that driving them back to back on the same tires. That's one of the nice things about a video game in this case, is that you absolutely know that the tires are identical in this case, and they're brand new every time you jump in the car.
Absolutely.
One of the things I wanted to note about our track time with this car in Gran Turismo Sport is that we did not do any tuning.
Yeah, all things being equal, same tires, same you know, OEM specs on both cars. I think it gives us a good baseline to, you know, test the differences with handling, braking, acceleration, all in the same kind of, you know, closed circuit environment.
Tell me about doing donuts in this car. What was your experience there? We did some nice tandem donuts, as you can see on screen here.
The one word I would say for the donuts in the GR86, effortless, just effortless. Literally, first gear, pop the clutch as you're turning, it'll come around and it'll be balanced. You know, some cars when you do, you know, a donut, sometimes getting into multiple kind of circle scenarios is hard to do because the car's all over the place. You can't make a clean circle, whereas the GR86, you're literally planted in one spot, just like flipping the throttle as you go around. and it's just a nice clean circle,
Yeah.
and you can even do it in second gear as well.
Yeah, it's like a function of having, you know, that rear wheel drive with enough power but not too much power where, you know, the car is fishtailing all over the place and wants to send you into the wall. But also just really nice front rear left to right balance. I mean, it is effortless. I agree with your word. What about drag racing? So we had a methodology here where we tried a few different things. We did a race with traction control off, lined them up. And then we did we did a little bit of a bonus where we drag raced them in reverse, which is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen.
We haven't seen this kind of level of shenanigans in other reviews, but we're gonna step it up for you guys.
Yeah, we want you to subscribe. We want you to see ridiculous things you've never seen before.
Hit that like button and that notification bell. Yeah, I mean, so with that test, it really proved that, you know, in reverse, the gear ratio and the settings are different between the models and the cars. The old model topped out at 61 kilometers an hour, and the new one went up to 65 kilometers an hour. So there's a noticeable difference at the tail end of that drag race where the new one is really passing it by. I mean, slowly, but it is winning.
Lined them up, did a race with traction control set to 2 in Gran Turismo Sport. That's not really a real life setting or anything. But the result was consistent. As with every other race, the 2022 model outclasses the 2016. Easily. We did a roll race as well where we kind of lined them up to 80 kilometers an hour and then went for it. The 2022 got a slow start but claws it back and takes the win, which is pretty much, you know, our experience across the board with these two cars. We should get into now the bit that everyone's been waiting for. It's not the reverse drag race, unfortunately, as funny as that is. It's probably the one lap delta. So you can see the old car is in dark blue. The new car is in this gunmetal color. And the whole time, right down the straight and into the first turn here at Circuit de Barcelona, we've got the new car just pulling away. From turn 1 onward, you're just pulling on me basically the whole time. We're coming down here like the slight back straight, and I'm pushing my braking zones.
Yeah, you're over the limit, whereas the newer one is much more planted.
Exactly. I'm doing whatever I can. I'm driving the wheels off this thing, like right into that hairpin. Got a little drift on, trying to just keep a little bit of extra speed to keep up with you any way that I can. And unfortunately, the gap is either consistent or opening up the whole time.
The new one hasn't, it looks like it's not even breaking a sweat, where you're just all over the place trying to keep up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty evident from this footage. So we're coming around here to the last section of the course. We've got the little chicane coming up, the one that everyone either hates or loves. Braking is just so flat in the new GR86, whereas you can see the 86 GT, the 2016, just diving like crazy under braking. Front end comes down, rear end lifts up.
Yeah.
It's just struggling. And there you go. So over the line, there's a 2.438 second gap around Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. And this was right about average across 3 runs. As you alluded to earlier, in my opinion, unless you're getting a screaming deal, don't even bother trying to get the old one. I think this new model is worth the extra cost for those 2.4 seconds right there.
It'll hold its value, looks-wise, performance-wise, reliability. I mean, it'll hold.
I think the other important reason it'll hold too is this is sort of the last of its era, right? Like we're culminating these rear-wheel drive, manual transmission, gasoline-powered, non-electrically assisted cars.
Yeah, it's winding down.
And they're, you know, after this, they're going to start fading away in favor of electric performance cars. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, there's a lot wrong with that, in my opinion. But
well, there you go. I mean, you know, as usual, we are so similar but so different. I'm excited for a future of electric sports cars, but I'm so happy that we've got this last hurrah that we can continue to enjoy, that you and I will probably continue to be buying used models of, you know, for the next 20 years, if I had to guess.
Yeah, it's a real driver's car. This is no doubt a driver's car. I think the value that it brings to the category is you know, uncomparable, I would say, because of the performance and the handling that it's going to deliver. Once again, guys, thanks for the time. It's been a good discussion and test.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Raph. And together we are
Oversteer Alley.